You must be pretty good at your job if you're giving me a lecture, huh? Let's see you talk to this guy on the phone, old man. Oh, by the way, he's French. I had just retired and been rehired as a part-time employee. It seems like he's not too happy about taking orders from someone like me. Ryan, the new hire who loves to brag about his Harvard degree, challenged me to negotiate in French. Hey, old man. Go on, talk to him. You were acting all high and mighty, weren't you? What's the matter? All talk, huh? Ryan gave me a little shove on the shoulder. I was seriously getting annoyed. Is that so? I took a deep breath and picked up the phone. When Ryan saw what I did, his face went pale. My name is John. I'm 65 years old and just retired this year. After years of hard work, I was asked repeatedly during my retirement farewell tour to stay with the company. I was happy that my contributions had been recognized, so after discussing it with my wife, I decided to rejoin a large, well-known trading company where I had connections. I never thought I could get another job at 65, so I was eager to prove I still had what it takes. However, I had also planned a trip abroad with my wife. You don't have to push yourself too hard, you know? You really love your work, don't you? What are you talking about? Of course, you're more important to me than work. But are you sure? You could still take on a full-time position if you wanted to. No, it's fine. I've worked hard enough already. It's time to let the younger folks take the lead. My wife understood my passion for work, and she also knew how much I truly loved my job. But since we had the chance to travel together, I wanted to make the most of it. This would be our first trip alone together since our honeymoon. During my interview, I requested to be hired as a part-time employee so I could have a flexible schedule. Of course. We'd be thrilled to have you, John. The company was more than happy to accommodate my request. They assured me that they'd adjust my schedule whenever necessary. And so, I was fortunate enough to start working part-time. In this new company, I recognized a few familiar faces from previous dealings, which made the job easier. Of course, there were plenty of new things I needed to learn, but I used my experience to compensate for my age and quickly got up to speed. Just like before retirement, my hard work was appreciated by those around me. John, you're really fast. As expected. Well, I'm getting old. I used to pick things up a lot quicker back in the day. If there's anything you don't get, just ask me. I'm getting pretty good at this job now, too. Even though, technically, I was the junior in terms of hire date, the familiar employees treated me warmly. Some of them even came to me with questions when they were stuck, knowing about my previous work experience. I shared my knowledge without hesitation. Even though I'm just an old man now, it felt good to know my experience could still help others. Work really is fun. I'm glad I got a job in this industry again. I was living a very fulfilling life. Then, it came time for the new hires to be assigned to their departments after completing a month-long training period. Naturally, our department was also getting a new employee. We were all called to gather in the middle of the office. It's that time of year again. We have a new member joining us, so please help them out if they need it. The supervisor of the department nudged the newcomer forward, encouraging them to introduce themselves. The newcomer stepped up in front of everyone. He was reasonably good-looking and wore a stylish suit. He opened his mouth to speak. Ha! Is he speaking English? Everyone in the department tilted their heads in confusion. The new guy had suddenly started speaking in English. but it was hard to make out what he was saying. "Oh, sorry about that. I've been at Harvard for so long. Anyway, nice to meet you all. My name is Ryan. I'm looking forward to working with you." The new guy, Ryan, bowed his head. Despite the surprise of him speaking English, everyone clapped politely. Ryan, perhaps misinterpreting their surprised expressions, flashed a smug smile. "Sorry about that. I'm so used to speaking English that it just slips out sometimes." Back when I was at Harvard, Ryan kept talking about himself for another 5 minutes. He mentioned Harvard graduate several times, making sure everyone knew how good he was at English. And so, it's about time to get back to work. Let's wrap up the introductions. Well then, looking forward to working with you, Ryan. Yes. Thank you, looking forward to working with you too. Mark, the supervisor, cut him off and directed everyone to get back to work. Ryan responded with a bright smile. From that day on, there wasn't a single day when Ryan wasn't a topic of conversation in the department. He made an effort to communicate in English every day. While his enthusiasm was appreciated, it reached a point where people had to stop their work just to deal with his interactions, leaving them with awkward smiles. As we worked together, we realized that Ryan's so-called fluent English was actually quite hard to understand. Well, you know, I only communicated in English while I was at Harvard, so it just comes out naturally. Ryan would say, but even for native English speakers, his English was difficult to follow, and sometimes we had no idea what he was saying. However, given how much he bragged, no one felt comfortable telling him that directly. Even when we didn't understand what he was saying, we just nodded along to keep the conversation going. Then one day, Ryan approached me. He asked something, but I couldn't make out what he was saying and tilted my head in confusion. "Could you repeat that?" I said. Ryan repeated himself, but with the same unclear pronunciation and rhythm, making it impossible to understand. The only word I could catch was school. But since I didn't think I'd be able to understand even if he repeated it in English, I decided to ask him a favor. Could you please say it in Japanese?" I tried to smile politely, but Ryan clicked his tongue in irritation. "Huh? You don't understand English? Why is a guy who can't even speak English working here? This company expects everyone to be fluent in English. You know?" Ryan's tone was clearly mocking. There was no one else around at the time. Knowing this, Ryan lightly tapped my shoulder. "Hey, old man, I was asking where you went to college." Even in Japanese universities, they teach English, right? Well, actually, I didn't go to college. I only graduated from middle school. What? Middle school? You're kidding me. How did you get into this company? Ryan burst out laughing, to the point where tears welled up in his eyes. Oh, come on. Seriously? Is this company that desperate for workers? Hiring an old man with only a middle school education who can't even speak English? Oh, I get it. You were hired as a janitor, weren't you? Laughing as if he had no more use for me, Ryan walked past me. From that day on, Ryan's attitude towards me changed drastically. He would snicker behind my back and mutter something in English as we passed each other. I still couldn't understand his English, but from his tone, it was clear he was mocking me. Somehow, he had also found out that I was working part-time, and his behavior started to escalate. But after so many years of working, I'd encountered plenty of people like Ryan before. I tried not to let it bother me too much and maintained a mature attitude. as long as it doesn't affect my work. He'll probably get bored and stop eventually. With that in mind, I continued to enjoy my work as usual, spending time with my wife when I got home. Although Ryan's presence made things a bit more challenging, I was still living a happy life, just like before. A few days later. John. Oh, David. What's up? There's something I'd like you to handle. Could you take a look at this? David, the department manager, handed me some documents. As I glanced through them, I realized they were about a contract with a major American company, ST Corporation. ST Corporation is one of the world's largest companies, with branches all over the globe. I had heard of them many times before. Since they have so many branches, I thought you'd be the right person for this. Are you sure it's okay to give such a big job to someone who's just part-time? Oh, come on, John. I trust you. Oh, by the way, Ryan. Hey, Ryan. David called out to Ryan. Ryan quickly responded, but he frowned slightly when he saw me. That frown turned to confusion and anger as David continued. What is it, David? Ryan, since you're good at English, you'll be assisting John. Watch how he works and learn from him. What? I'm supposed to assist John? As an assistant? Yes, I might assign you similar tasks in the future, so pay close attention. John, I'm counting on you. Got it. David cheerfully walked away from the department. I headed to the printer to make copies of the documents. Behind me, I could hear Ryan grumbling. Why do I have to? Why with this old man? I couldn't help but let out a deep sigh. Turning to Ryan, I looked him in the eye and gave him a firm but calm reprimand. Like it or not, work is work. Let's do this together. As David said, you might be handling this on your own someday, so pay close attention. Here are the documents. We'll start the meeting soon, so I'll go reserve a conference room. Wait there. Ryan looked displeased. Without saying a word, he took the copied documents from me, and I went off to reserve the room. After securing the room and sending a message to Ryan, I went to the archives to find additional materials. When I returned to the department with the documents I found, Ryan was already gone. According to my colleagues, he had already headed to the conference room. I grabbed my laptop and headed to the room as well. You're late. I've been waiting. Ryan muttered the moment I opened the door. His tone was entirely different from when David was around, and I felt a surge of irritation. But I reminded myself that he was still young. He probably had a lot of frustrations with me. I opened my laptop on the desk and handed Ryan the additional materials. I was looking for more information. We're dealing with a large company, so the usual Japanese methods might not work. It's important to gather as much information as possible. Researching documents is crucial. I handed him the materials. Here, these and these. Make sure you go through them. He snatched the documents from my hand, almost yanking them away. Ryan took the papers with a sulky attitude. Why do I have to assist this old man? He can't even speak English. Do you even know how to use that laptop? Want me to show you how to use the keyboard? I know how to use it just fine. I clenched my fist. I squeezed it tight, trying my best to hold back my frustration. It couldn't be helped. He's still young, after all, rebellion is to be expected, and he's bound to make mistakes at work too. I had seen Ryan approach his work with a serious attitude before, so I believed he would put in the effort this time as well. As long as he could complete this big project successfully, that's all that mattered. With that in mind, I suppressed my anger at Ryan's words. After he finished reading through the documents, we started discussing how to proceed with the negotiations. Based on the information we have, this company excels in this area, and they seem to be looking for this right now. So, we should focus on pushing this. No, this one's better. If it were up to me, I'd do it like this. But that approach could cause problems. Problems that haven't even happened yet. And besides, it wouldn't result in much of a loss, right? What are you talking about? Even if our losses are minimal, the other company could suffer significant losses. That's why we should. Are you kidding me? That would just reduce our profits and create unnecessary work. Ryan opposed every suggestion I made. He didn't nod in agreement a single time during our discussion. I tried to stay calm, thinking he might have a better idea, so I listened to his opinions. But every suggestion he made had flaws. His proposals were all focused on maximizing our company's profits, without considering how the other company would react. Time passed with nothing decided. And Ryan became increasingly frustrated with me for not going along with his ideas. This plan is terrible. Seriously, everything the low-educated old man comes up with is useless. You're so dumb, old man. I'm still your senior. Don't use such language while we're working. But you're just a part-timer, right? Does a part-timer even count as a senior? I'm a full-time employee. Being part-time doesn't matter right now. The job is the job, so do it properly. Yeah. We continued typing up the plan on the computer, preparing the documents to submit to David. When I reached the section for person in charge of calls who would handle the negotiations, Ryan took it upon himself to type in his own name. John, you can't speak English, right? Leave it to me. Unlike someone with just a middle school education, I've got real experience abroad. He typed with a smug grin on his face. He even started filling in details that hadn't been agreed upon yet, without consulting me. I felt something snap inside me. Enough! Work is not a game. My sudden shout made Ryan flinch, but then he stood up, trying to tower over me. You're the one who should back off. You're just some low-educated old man who shouldn't even be handling this kind of work. You're just an old guy with nothing going for you except your age, and it's pathetic how David grovels to you. Someone like you should be stuck in the back organizing papers in the warehouse. Why don't you go do that instead? Ryan's outburst made me stand up as well. I'm still your senior, and you should know better than to use such language in a professional setting. How do you think it feels for your coworkers to hear such disrespectful words? My loud voice startled Ryan. I rarely raised my voice, so he seemed genuinely shocked. But I didn't care. I pointed to the documents spread out on the table and continued. You haven't even properly reviewed these materials. You don't know anything about the other company. You haven't even bothered to do any research. Nor have you asked me any questions. Understanding your negotiation partner is the most basic principle of this job. Haven't you been taught even the basics? Ryan's face turned bright red as he slammed his laptop shut. Then, he grabbed his laptop and stormed out of the conference room. As he left, he loudly clicked his tongue. If you're going to be like that, then why don't you just do all the grunt work yourself, old man? A part-timer like you should stick to the basics. Wait. I called after him, but Ryan kept walking and disappeared somewhere. I watched him vanish beyond the door, and then I regained my composure. Taking a deep breath, I sat down alone in the now quiet conference room. The next day, considering how heated our argument was, I figured Ryan wouldn't show up for work. Maybe I should have handled it more calmly. I felt a twinge of regret and a bit of loneliness as I headed to work that morning. However, as soon as I arrived, Ryan, looking rather smug, came straight over to me. "Good morning, John. Wow, you've already reset your mindset. That's impressive, really." Impressed by Ryan's quick recovery, I greeted him cheerfully as well. "Oh, good morning, Ryan. About yesterday," I began, but Ryan cut me off and handed me a document. I took it, giving him a curious look. "I've already finished the work. Unlike a part-timer, I'm quick at this stuff." "What is this?" "It's the report we were working on yesterday. Don't tell me you forgot already?" It was the document we had worked on together, despite our disagreements. "You've already put the report together? Well, at least you didn't include any of the details we hadn't finalized." Relieved, I started to review the document. But something felt off when I reached the section with the financial figures. I double-checked, then triple-checked the numbers. 1, 2, 3. As I frantically went over the figures, Ryan burst out laughing, clutching his stomach. "Are you nitpicking the document just because a newbie put it together? There's no way a Harvard grad like me would make a mistake. Besides, I've already sent it over." "You've sent it to the client?" "Of course. I work fast, remember?" I was stunned by Ryan's words. Despite my resolve not to raise my voice after yesterday, I couldn't help but shout, "Hey, this amount is wrong. If this goes through, our company could lose $1,000 million. "What?" My voice echoed through the department. And as if to amplify the tension, the sound of a phone ringing followed. The internal line buzzed, and I quickly answered. "This is John from the International Sales Department." "Hello, is Ryan there?" "There's a call for him from the French branch of ST Corporation." It was a call for Ryan. Ryan snatched the phone from my hand, asking to be connected. The line to the French branch was connected. I couldn't hear the other person's voice, so I watched Ryan anxiously. Ryan began speaking in English over the phone. He seemed to be repeating the same words over and over, but then he suddenly switched to hesitant French. It seemed like the other party didn't understand his English. As I watched with growing concern, I heard a loud voice on the other end of the line, followed by the sound of the call being abruptly disconnected. Ryan stood there in shock, lowering the receiver slowly. I gently tapped his shoulder. "What did they say?" The moment I asked, Ryan's face twisted with anger, and he slapped my hand away. "Don't mess with me. This is your fault, old man. If you just finalized everything and sent the documents yesterday, this wouldn't have happened." His words made me involuntarily take a heavy breath. But this time, I managed to stay calm as I spoke. "Don't blame others. It was your reckless actions that caused this. Now, tell me what they said." "Shut up. I'm still processing it." "You didn't understand, did you?" "Shut up. I only studied a little French. But I understood the words." I placed a calming hand on Ryan's shoulder, trying to steady him. "Calm down. Next time you're on the phone with them, make sure to take notes. And if you don't understand something, let me take over. It's important to admit when you don't know something. It's part of being a professional." "Then you do it, old man." Ryan cut me off, his frustration boiling over. Don't you dare order me around, you low-educated geezer. Stop wasting time with your pointless advice and just do your job. He pointed at the phone and laughed at me. It was a mocking, derisive laugh. Come on, give it a try. You're the one who thinks you're so smart, right? Let's see what you can do, Mr. Middle School Education. Oh, by the way, the person on the other end speaks French. Ryan's words grew sharper and more cutting, like a blade. But there was no time for this. Our work couldn't wait. I glanced at the clock. We were running out of time. So I reluctantly pressed the button to redial the number. The phone rang. Bonjour, this is the French branch of ST Corporation. Bonjour, this is the Inspire Incorporated from Japan. I'd like to speak with your representative, please. Ah, of course. One moment, please. I glanced over at Ryan. His eyes were wide, his mouth slightly open as he stared at me. He was clearly shocked that I could speak French. Hello? We can't communicate like this, your French is too. I deeply apologize for earlier. My name is John, and I'll be taking over the call. Oh. Finally, someone who understands me. Great. I called because I needed to urgently discuss something. It's about the documents you sent this morning. I explained the errors in the documents and sincerely apologized with all my heart. I assured them that I would create new, corrected documents and resend them promptly. Fortunately, it was still at the review stage, so the financial figures hadn't been finalized, and we were able to avoid any serious consequences. Relieved, I thanked the representative and ended the call. Phew. It's a good thing we caught it in time. I turned to face Ryan directly. You know, they said they couldn't understand a word of your French. So what if you can speak French? Just as Ryan was about to retort, the internal phone rang again. Ryan jumped, startled. Beep. Excuse me. We're getting a lot of calls. There's one from the Chinese branch of ST Corporation, as well as the Italian and Spanish branches. Ryan's face turned pale as I glanced at him. It dawned on me immediately. Ryan likely only knew English. I quickly picked up the phone and asked the operator to connect me to each branch in turn. Hello, this is John speaking. I began speaking to the person on the other end in Chinese. There was no time to observe Ryan's reaction. China, Italy, Spain. I handled each call in a different language, and by the time I finished, quite a bit of time had passed. After the final call ended, I took a deep breath, grateful it was over. I sat down and hurriedly transferred my notes from the calls into my notebook. I needed to communicate the details to the relevant departments before I forgot. Ryan, could you recalculate the figures on the documents you prepared? Let's correct them quickly and resend them to the branches. Yes. Noticing Ryan's weak response, I finally looked over at him. His face was devoid of energy, clearly showing the regret and frustration of having made a mistake. While typing on his computer, Ryan asked me a question without meeting my gaze. How many languages can you speak? About 10, I replied. There were people from those regions in my previous job, so once I explained the situation, they understood immediately. And the calls went smoothly. It seems like we'll be able to fix everything. We really dodged a bullet. But if it's in English, I could. Ryan stammered, trying to defend himself. I couldn't help but share something I'd overheard, thinking maybe it would finally get through to him. Michael from the American branch said you were quite the cocky guy. He mentioned that while you're fast at work, you make a lot of mistakes. He also said that just because you can speak English doesn't mean you're doing a good job. What? And by the way, your English is really hard to understand. I couldn't follow it myself. And Michael mentioned that there were times he couldn't understand you either. He's planning to ask David to have me take over your duties until you can communicate more clearly, to avoid disrupting the work. Honestly, you've just added more to my plate. When I looked at Ryan after saying this, he had a betrayed expression on his face. It seemed that no one had ever pointed this out to him before. I paused my work and turned to face Ryan directly. Language is a tool for communication, but what really matters is the heart behind it. Being able to communicate should be a given, there's no point in flaunting it. You didn't graduate from Harvard just because you could speak English, right? It was because you studied hard and learned how to use English to accomplish something more. I gently patted Ryan's back, trying to encourage him. I made plenty of mistakes when I was younger too. I was often ridiculed for only having a middle school education. But I wasn't mocked forever. I worked hard, overcame those challenges, and that's why I'm here now. Ryan, you're still young. So it's okay to make mistakes. Just make sure you don't repeat them. Ryan, who had been yelling earlier, was now quiet. He looked down, seeming to contemplate what I had said. Eventually, he nodded silently in agreement. Satisfied, I turned back to my desk. All right, let's get back to work. Don't worry, we've managed to pull through so far, so let's keep it up and finish the job. Okay. Ryan responded softly. From that point on, the work flowed smoothly, with no more arguments between us. The workday had finally come to an end. Outside the window, the sky was pitch dark. Normally, I'd start packing up with a sense of accomplishment, but today, I had somewhere else to go with Ryan. With both of us feeling nervous, we knocked on the door in front of us. The sign on the door read President's Office. Knock, knock. Come in. It's John and Ryan. Ah, come in. Excuse us. Excuse me. Together, we opened the door to the president's office. Inside was our president, Mr. Anderson, his face stern with anger. This meeting was about today's mistake. We had narrowly avoided a huge loss, but it had been a close call. I had immediately informed Mr. Anderson of the situation. What were you thinking? Ryan, still standing, was scolded by Mr. Anderson. If he had looked pale before, now he was beyond pale, practically ghostly white. His face was drained of all color, as if he were a dead man walking. He was probably imagining the worst possible outcome in his head. Desperately bowing his head, he clenched his fists and struggled to hold back tears. Standing beside him, I also bowed deeply to Mr. Anderson. The president's scolding came to a halt. Mr. Anderson, I deeply apologize. Ryan acted prematurely, but I am also to blame. I failed in my responsibility to guide him properly. From now on, I will approach my work with renewed diligence. I bowed my head repeatedly in apology. Seeing my sincerity, Mr. Anderson sighed deeply, looking conflicted, before sitting back in his chair. I'll let this slide, thanks to John. But Ryan, you need to be prepared to leave the company if you make another mistake like this. Ryan looked up at Mr. Anderson. Mr. Anderson nodded solemnly. Thank you. I'll be extremely careful not to make any more mistakes. Thank you so much. Thank John for that. Now, both of you must be exhausted. Go home for today, and let's continue working hard from tomorrow. Yes, thank you. Thank you, and have a good night. After bowing again, we quietly left the president's office. As soon as we stepped out, Ryan turned to me and bowed deeply. John, thank you. Really, thank you. His attitude had completely changed. He seemed like a different person. It was as if Ryan had been reborn. I waved my hand dismissively as I prepared to leave. But before I could finish, Ryan, with newfound determination, bent at the waist in a gesture of respect. John, please let me learn from you. I want to observe and learn from your example in this job. Please teach me everything you can. I'm asking you sincerely. Hearing his words made me feel appreciated, and I couldn't help but smile as I scratched my cheek. Just make sure you watch and learn. Yes. From that moment on, Ryan became much more humble. It was as if he was a completely different person. He stopped bragging entirely and began listening carefully to others. When problems arose, he quickly sought advice. The large project we were working on proceeded smoothly without any further mistakes. As I worked closely with him, I realized that his Harvard education had given him a sharp intellect. He was highly capable, picking up new skills quickly and applying them effectively. He was an exceptionally talented individual. Even the issues I had noticed with his English improved significantly after I pointed them out. Ryan took the feedback to heart and worked hard to correct his mistakes, making his English much easier to understand. Correcting deeply ingrained habits in language is difficult, but Ryan put in the effort to practice diligently. I had Ryan speak with Michael, our American contact, over the phone to test his progress. Michael was deeply impressed. Now I can trust him with this, he said, giving Ryan his full endorsement. As a result, my workload began to decrease, and now I'm able to take time off whenever I want, making more room in my schedule. Now, I enjoy spending time traveling abroad with my wife while continuing to work hard. Mistakes are something everyone makes. There isn't a single person who hasn't failed at some point. However, what matters most is what you do after making a mistake. I've come to believe that it's okay to fail repeatedly as long as you keep trying to correct those failures. What's important isn't hiding your mistakes, but learning from them and moving forward, something I've learned anew at my age.